resolutions to be voted on. That package was put together when we thought we were going to be in Chicago. We were going to have discussions and we were going to have votes of those bylaws and resolutions after discussion and amendments and those things that we do. However, that didn't happen. But we still had to vote on our bylaws and resolutions. We did that, our delegates did that, but we didn't have the benefit of listening to the people at the mics, asking the questions, saying yes, saying no. So with resolution 2, and not so much with resolution 3, we are working a little handicapped because we never got that on the floor discussion. But you may not remember what resolution 2 and resolution 3 are. Resolution 2 was to look at how Zonta is organized and what our structure is, and to reflect on what we want to be and continue to be, what we might want to change, what we don't want to change, what we want to preserve as we are now in our 2nd century. Resolution 3 was the one with restating, oops, I have to watch that. Was looking at the bylaws and restating. Now, the difference of these two is that resolution 3 has a mandate to present bylaws to be voted on, to that restatement of the bylaws. What are we going to change? So you will get from resolution 3, you will have a voting package with bylaws that have the changes that come out of our study. Now, resolution 2, which is looking at our structure, only concludes with a report of the study with recommendations. So here you have resolution 3, which is a mandate to have restated bylaws. And running in parallel, you have resolution 2 that's got a study going on. So this is what came out of non-convention, but the voting of last summer. As a result, the Bylaws and Resolutions Committee is working on resolution 3 to look at those bylaws, how we are restating them, what are some of the proposals. Some of you may have even been involved with the discussions on some of the proposals, and Renee is here, and so she can be talking. I think you're talking bylaws at the round table tonight. So if you want to know more about resolution 3, go to Renee. But resolution 2 is much more open. So, but it does have governance in it as well, because when you talk about how you're organized, there is governance there. So what I did after we made the voting happened, I set up last fall to have a working group within the board, which I led, to say, what do we really want to concentrate on in this initial study? And so at that time, when I was leading it, the Vice President Sala from Finland and the Director Suella from New Zealand, the 3 of us started working on it and saying, what do we need are the highest priorities we want to address. We then brought in President-elect Uta to that study, and we developed and identified 7 work streams, of which 4 we decided would be the primary emphasis for this initial study. Not that the other 3 weren't important, but we were looking at what had the highest priority in our minds for what we wanted to do and where we were thinking change could occur, or where, as I said, there are things we don't want to change. And so we needed to look at that. Also on resolution 2, it does not address headquarters. We purposely made that not part of this study. It was not in the resolution. We are getting input from Megan, from Allison, from others at headquarters, because we know they are key to how we operate biennium to biennium. That's our continuity. So after we did this study last fall and getting to these 4 work streams, we've now brought in the rest of the board to work on these work streams. And the work streams are strategy, governance, advocacy, and I believe service is in there as well, advocacy and service, and membership. Those were the 4 that we're going forward with. So the work streams have started working, and we said, and this is one of my very important pieces, is that I said, this is not a top-down. It has to be grassroots. It has to come from our clubs. It has to come from our members. While we are leading it at the board level, it is going to be decisions that are made by our clubs and our club members. So we're trying to put the structure together, and I have a request for you, all of you. In a few days, Megan, I think it's like a week, in the next week, you will be getting a survey. Please, please answer it. It gives us insight into where you would like us to go. Things that, what is important to you? What is important to you as a member of Zonta? Please answer that survey. I think it's going to be open for maybe a week or so, but we're just finalizing that survey. It shouldn't take more than 5 or 10 minutes. We're really trying to keep it short, but also allow for comments. So I just really would encourage you to please give us that feedback. So one of the other things that we have done is we all have our Zonta lenses on. We're members of Zonta. We need to have some ability to get input from others. And so we have gone to a contract, and we are getting some guidance, some of those non-Zonta lenses to say, this is what we know about other organizations. And this is the trends that we're seeing in nonprofits, so that we can, as a board, say that we have done everything we need to do, that we have looked internally, we have gotten the grassroots input, and we have also had outside guidance. Maybe not guidance isn't the right word, but more advisory, and just sort of saying, giving that sanity check. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? So that's where we're at. We have 10 months basically to get to a report to be ready for convention in Hamburg next year. And I will see all of you in Hamburg. But we have our work cut out for us. Clearly, we've got our work cut out, because when you're talking about an organization in 63 countries with 27,000 members, and how do you take this ship that we have and how do you steer it to where you don't turn it too quickly and people fall off? You have to make sure that we are going in a direction we want to go that is positive for us. It's positive for our mission. And our fellowship is so important. We know that. And we have such diversity in the organization. So as I said, it's a big task. We are trying to take steps to get the information that we need to be able to give to our delegates, to you as members, this study and our recommendations. Some of the recommendations may be, we need to study this more. And some of it may be, yeah, we can do this. This is some small steps. But it needs to come from input from all of you as we look at these different things. So that gives you a background of last summer to now. And what we're looking for in this was sort of an open forum, whatever questions you might have regarding Resolution 2, and I will try and answer. But I have turned over the leadership of the task force and working group to our Vice President Sala. I just don't have the time to set knee deep into it. I am participating in the weekly meetings, but I am not leading it anymore. As I said, that goes to the Vice President now. So there's mics here, and questions that you have on Resolution 2. And if there is something with Resolution 3, Renee, I know you'll be able to answer those. Questions? I couldn't have answered all your questions. Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen Patty from the Zonta Club of Sanibel Captiva. So my question is about our membership classification. Because it is outdated. There are things we've talked about updating over the past couple biennia, but it hasn't happened. Is that in the survey, or is in consideration for modification in resolution 2 or 3?
We're looking at it in 3. I believe the feedback that we've had from the working groups, and we met with the different districts. We had meetings, what was that, about a month ago? And the general consensus was classifications would, the proposal for the bylaws would be to remove those classifications.
Thank you. I like that direction.
Yes, Joanne.
Thank you, Joanne Gallows from Annapolis, Maryland. And I'm just wondering for resolution 2, have we been talking anything about a hybrid approach where we meet in person, which, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. We finally get to be in a hotel again and away from our house. But I can also see there's some practicality in still using some kind of social media connection, whether it's Zoom, which we're all tired of, but are you looking at anything like that, even long-term? I mean, I know some of us maybe are looking at it short-term.
Yes, we are looking at it. Partly from the standpoint that convention has always been when we have made our decisions. And there was a reason to come together. We had business we had to conduct, and we also had our fellowship. I mean, that goes hand in hand. We also recognize that maybe to be attractive to younger members, that we need to not have as many in person. Maybe they can't get away from their job. So that's not at the high level that we're looking at it, but it has been in discussion. And I think what we are showing now this biennium is that we have learned technology to where we can have a bigger trade space than simply saying we are meeting in person. So I can't predict where it would go, but I think what you'll see in the future is some of this hybrid sort of situation. And I think Megan, from conferences that other organizations in which what she's seen have been very much moving in that direction of hybrid. We don't want to lose the fellowship. We know that the fellowship is important. We know that's part of how we are international. If we aren't getting together at convention to meet our friends from other parts of the world, we're missing out on something. I know many of us feel that is an important part of our organization. So we don't want to lose. These are things where we've got to do the trades. What do you lose and what do you gain? And as I said, we're not down to that level yet. We're still up here and just trying to say, what are those trades and what do we have to do? But we've got to have some flexibility as we move forward. And the world has made us be flexible.
That's great.
President
Okay, thank
Sharon?
you.
President Sharon?
Where?
I'm here.
I heard this voice, but
Yeah, there is a question in the chat box.
Uh-huh.
Will individual members be receiving the survey as well?
Yes, we will be sending to our individual members. Yes. Other comments, other questions? Nothing? Well, I really, as I said, it's a very important, yay, we have Nancy and we have Charlene. District 11. Ah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Charlene from District 11. And just thank you, President Sharon, for keeping us governors connected. Last February, when we met and just off to a wonderful start, and then something happened and we still stayed connected. So thank you, governors.
Thank you.
I want to say I was so lucky to be able to attend one of the things that one of the board calls, I guess, with the governors about where we were going and what we were doing about our conferences and about the electronic component. And we are almost 30,000 people in the world that believe in the mission of Zonta. And as we were talking about it, we have to also noticed that there were so many more people when they had to pivot at headquarters to figure out how they were going to do the conference in the summer, that more people attended and listened to the talks and listened to the things. So that is the wave of the future. And if we also look around the room, we need to have new faces when we go to Alaska in 2 years, or when we go to Germany. And we need to be able to open our minds, just as we do for child marriage or all these things that we have within our organization that we are advocating for. We need to be able to open up and say, that younger person, that 22-year-old person, that 25-year-old person will make a difference in my club. And I am really pushing for that we see a new thing. And so I hope, and Sharon was so nice to let me come and talk about District 11's, our electronic conference in October is going to be a pep rally. It's going to be a Zonta pep rally, because we are going to take care of the details, the voting, the things, just as ZI did before the conference. So when we get there, we're on mission, but we're trying to pump up the group to where we are going in the future. So thank you so much for letting me say that and to say it on the other call. Thank you.
So, thank you. So I'll give you a little insight into some things that, from my perspective, or things that I'm doing. Normally the president would have been at headquarters at least once a quarter. Since I have been president, I have yet to get to headquarters. And headquarters has been closed for, what were you, about 6 months or so, off and on closed, and gradually coming back. So things are not at all like a normal by any stretch. But just as I'm thinking about change, and we have change that we're looking at when we say resolution 2. Can you remember, I think it was in 2010, when President Diane at the time got us into social media? 2011. Okay, my recollection was there were a lot that said, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do now? This is a real problem. How are we gonna handle it? Well, guess what? Where are we today? Some of us might have been drug across to say, oh yeah, I guess I'm gonna be, and I was one. I was one that was not on Facebook for many years. But we've changed. And how many people would say, oh, I don't want that anymore. I'm. So when we think about where we want to be, where we want to go, most of us, and we're all guilty, we kind of put some blinders on, because I've been a Zonchan for 42 years. I know that things are not the same as it was, and there were some things that I was resistant of. So, but the other piece of that is I am not a mind reader. I never have had mind reading on my resume. So if you have ideas, if you think something you have tried in your club works and you've seen it, we need to hear about it, because that's the only way we're going to get and capture these ideas of change. And you are there, you're trying these things, but the information doesn't always flow up to the international board. It changes. And the other thing is, when somebody at the club level says it by voice, then it goes the old telephone. Oh, well, they forgot that sentence. And then it's this sentence. And by the time it got to me, it's kind of, well, I'm not sure that I quite understand that. So I really do encourage you to give us the comments, give us the suggestions, give us the ideas, try and think broader than oh, it's just, this is what I'm used to. And we need that. I mean, look, we're here. We've seen declining membership for many years, and we want to stabilize. We want to grow, but first we need to stabilize. So part of that is this looking into how we're structured. What do we need to change? How can we be more attractive? Everybody, the mission is why we're here, but how do we then make some of these other changes? So I've been doing too much talking. So who's going to ask a question now? Who's going to have a comment? I see someone getting up.
It's the wrong way. My name is Mary Nimmerfer. I'm from the Zonta Club of St. Cloud, Minnesota. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Last year, I was not feeling well most of the year, so I honestly don't know what resolutions 2 and 3 are. I'm kind of getting an idea from what you've been saying, but do you have the wording so you can read it?
Do we have we have the summary in the bylaws.
Oh, she says it's in the
The
program.
bylaws book, in the bylaws book is a summary of resolution 2 and resolution 3. It's not the full thing that was voted on. When we printed the governing documents booklets, we did not have the full, 2 pages. But it is in the back of your governing documents book, your bylaws book. It's in there. It's not in the program here. If Megan, could you at least read? Megan's going to read what's the summary of resolution 2 that's in your governing documents booklet.
Okay, resolution 2 is on conducting an overall review of Zonta International. An overall review of Zonta International's organizational structure will be conducted under the leadership of the Zonta International Board for the 2020-2022 biennium. The board will engage with the membership as it conducts the review of Zonta International, including its membership base, governing structures, and operational framework, with the goal to identify areas in need of reform and to make recommendations for potential changes. A report to the Zonta International Convention 2022, along with potential recommended changes, will be presented. You want resolution 3? Yeah. Okay. Resolution 3 is the Zonta International Bylaws and Resolutions Committee is authorized to 1, analyze and study other nonprofit organizations and their bylaws to determine how to best structure the bylaws of Zonta International in a manner that retains the democratic structure of the organization, recognizes the importance of the members of the organization in determining the shape and direction of Zonta International, and preserves the current mission and objectives of Zonta International, while creating a simplified, sustainable, and understandable framework for operating, allowing members to focus on Zonta International's mission and the objects set forth in Article 2 of the bylaws of Zonta International. And 2, that was really long. Present the committee findings and revised and restated bylaws if the committee deems revision necessary to the Zonta International Board and the 2022 convention for consideration and voting.
So does that help a little? It's a synopsis of what those were that we voted on, but they're both directed at change. Jackie.
Hi, Jackie Goodmanson from the Zonta Club of Pontiac. I'm just curious as to what prompted resolution 2, because obviously it didn't come out of nowhere. And we were then in a period of change, a dramatic change, whether we wanted to be or not, but the whole world was. So what was it that prompted this review?
I would say it's the fact that we completed 100 years. And looking at the longevity, we've seen, I think there's 1 or 2 organizations that have kind of gone away. And so it was a time to reflect. It was a time where your mindset is 100 years is here. Now, looking forward, what could that be? What do we want to be? So I think that was a big trigger. And just, as I said, the trend of membership going down, things that we've seen, people having more opportunities, whether you're young, my age, whatever, of other organizations that you can be engaged with. So why Zonta? Why not this local service organization in your community? So I think there's a lot of aspects that came together, and that real pivot point was 100 years, next 100 years.
The reason I'm curious is because I happened to come across a history of, it was written by a member of the Detroit One Club who was a founding member of Zonta, and she talked about the early days of moving in and out of, well, we were District 2, and then we were Area D, and we were this, and we were that. And what was interesting was to see, I personally have always felt, and I think I share that with many of you, that our founding members had tremendous vision. Far more than they were probably even aware of in terms of what they saw for improving the status of women and eventually even accomplishing world peace. Certainly we can still work on that, and there's an even greater value. But I noticed there was a tension in the history of, we want to solidify the organization. Oh no, we don't want to spend time doing that. We want to go out and build more clubs. And clearly they worked at doing both. So I sort of feel as though maybe we're back in that situation.
Yeah.
Yes, we have to normalize certain things, if that is possible ever. And we want to grow and expand and share our message with others. So how do we look at what's the very best we can hope for? And I'd like to think that that's what we look at.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I have given talks about Zonta, and particularly as it relates to the Amelia Earhart Fellowship and the beginnings of that in the 1938. But I look at and read about what our founders, the vision that they had for completion within their life, that we were going to achieve equality, and the visions of our founders, I just admire them. And when I look back and you read about what life was like at that time, they were so progressive, and they did things that I'm not sure I would have been ready to do at that time, but they did. And I admire them. We have such a legacy. And then what do we do, and how do we build on that legacy? And now is that opportunity to reflect. Brittany.
Thank you, President Sharon. Brittany Vaughn, Governor, District 9, member of the Zonta Club of Burbank area. I know that there is much more work to be done around Resolution 2, but I was hoping that you could share a little bit more about what the work group to date has been most excited by in their discussions on Resolution 2 and what they are looking most forward to.
I would say that it's the opportunity to see things broadly, and that other vision, that other lens, to step back and really reflect on what we want, the real core, and where do we want to concentrate. So I think it's a way of pulling things together, but it also brings in all the internationalism that we have grown from 1919, when we were just in the United States, to now in 63 countries. And I think that's, it's helping us to see some of those things that we maybe did not step back and always appreciate what was done and how it was done, but then looking and saying, how could we do some improvements?
Thank you.
Good afternoon,
Hi.
President Sharon.
Hi,
How
Pat.
are you? Pat Latona, District 3, member of the Zonta Club of New York. I just am up here to applaud Zonta International, this international board, you in particular, for taking on this momentous task, and wish you the best of luck. This is something that I had discussions with previous presidents about, and I strongly believe that we need to change. It is so important that you are also looking at and taking into consideration what other organizations are doing as well and aligning with them. But of course, making ours as unique as it always has been. But I wish you the best of luck. I can't thank you enough for doing this. This is something I've always wanted to see. And we are a leadership organization, and we have to start acting, many of us do, as transformational leaders, looking at our vision, as Jackie just mentioned, but also bringing the people that we are working with and the other people that we're working for all in alignment behind the vision. So congratulations.
Thank you. It's a big job. And one of our challenges is when you do open up that trade space is what can you really achieve in 2 years? And so we have that challenge too of, okay, we're always constantly prioritizing, because when you do want to think broadly, and then you say, oh, but I only have how many months left before I've got to publish a report, you have to put some things aside. And so I fully expect that there will be some things that we put in that report that says this needs more time to evaluate. It just isn't going to happen overnight. And so there'll be many steps to what that report is. But we are working very hard. The board spends many hours in our board meetings on the resolutions. So it's a big focus. So Maggie, I think you were there first.
Thank you, Maggie Kalika, District 8 Governor, Zonta Club of Anchorage. Sharon, President Sharon, are you thinking about restructuring the board? I mean, I'm just throwing out some ideas. Are you looking at restructuring the board? Are you looking at restructuring districts? Are you wanting to expand certain programs? I mean, can you give us some direction? Because then I can go back to my district and engage members in conversations to help you get some ideas.
From your first couple of questions, I would say they fall more under resolution 3 in
Okay.
how we are formally structured in terms of a board and a board size. Resolution 3 is taking the leadership there. We are looking more at the engagement of members and into our mission. There is look at resolution 2 in terms of areas and districts, but in a different way. We're not touching the board level at this point. We're letting resolution 3 take that lead. So that's where there's difficulties in working 2 and 3 at the same time, because there's this overlap of governance and structure. And we've more or less made a decision that resolution 3 has to lead, since they have to have formal bylaw proposals. And depending on what is the delegates' vote, will say what happens from the resolution 2 side. You can't, that's just the dilemma we're in, really, with being in parallel. It might have been better to have resolution 2, and then as a result of what we want to do and be, then you go into resolution 3 and change the bylaws. But that's not what we're dealing with. The delegates voted on both. So we are having to do a dance between the two. So, I mean, we're looking at it, but I wouldn't say it's the top priority of restructuring. We know that there's been many things that have come up, and look at the resolutions that were proposed for this last convention that we didn't have. And it was the proposal of all districts should be at least 500 members. And and that, which didn't pass, but we know things like that have come up. And we know that things have come up about country borders. We had a study back in 1416, and Sally Bean knows about the one that we had in the United States, and we had the counterpart in Europe, and we asked the European governors to get together. Do you want to change? You have 5 districts in Germany. Do you want this, your large districts? It came back. No, we don't want that. We don't want to be redistricted. So we're also tapping into these studies that have been done in previous bienniums and bringing that information. So we've had, what they ultimately wanted in the European districts was that they wanted to have the award structure being more equivalent, because they said, I have 70 some clubs in my district. I get 1 JMK award. I get 1 YWPA award. I look at other districts. I look at Region South America, 5 clubs. They have a YWPA, they have a JMK. So it was their comments. You have to really step back and say, where are they coming from? What is the real purpose of the study and what they're asking? And ultimately it was, no, we want to have all these countries in our district. We want that internationalism, but these are the things that we have issues with. So the study changed during the course of that time. So our study might change too.
Okay, thank you so much.
President Sharon, then I have 2 questions, couple of comments and a question in the chat box.
Okay.
There is many comments on hybrid, about the advantages of having a hybrid meeting. I can read some out, but there is also a question. Can you give us an example of the types of questions that will be included on the survey that we will receive? So that is a question about the survey.
Okay.
And then after you answer that, I will read out some of the comments on the hybrid.
Okay, and we also have another one at the mic here. But regarding the hybrid, say again, what was a comment? I'm sorry, I lost track because when we were going into the survey. The comments about the hybrid?
Yes, so there's a comment that young professionals balancing family or single parents will appreciate a hybrid option for time and childcare. That was a huge barrier in the past for women choosing not to join.
Yeah, but I think the hybrid, again, it expresses a flexibility that we have, that we know one shoe doesn't fit all. And so having some flexibility is a benefit. So did you have, I was going to ask Megan to pull up the survey questions, but while she's doing that, you had a comment, and then I'll get back to that survey questions, some examples.
Yeah, Donna Neal, District 6, Zonta Club of Milwaukee. And the questionnaire questions might help answer my question as well. But I have just an observation and suggestion. You've bucketed things into.
Could you speak up a little bit?
From what I understand, you've bucketed things into governance, service, and advocacy. My experience in strategy work is that the most important thing is really getting to the right questions, asking like the right, really hard questions. And I'm wondering sort of what processes you might have in place to get yourself there. Because it strikes me that creating a book at the end, I'm looking for maybe a little different way to express sort of what your product is going to be. What's the outcome? So I'm not sure if I'm clear enough.
Well, we have a team that is working on this survey, and we're also using our advisor to try and structure those questions so that we can get something that is very meaningful for us. And so we're trying to work that outcome. And I, to be honest, I don't know what the total outcome but we're trying to be able to analyze the data in such a way that it can help us in our path forward. But we don't know. I mean, we, at this point, what the responses are going to be. And if they're going to be for everything from way over here that says, don't you dare change anything, to how come we're not changing everything? So now which way is the ship going to go and who's going to fall off? So I've never, you can't take a large organization and make major changes in just a very short time. We will, I'm sure, be making some baby steps as we go. Did you find some? Oh, yeah, you could just read a few of the things about, just to highlight. This is an earlier version, but.
Yeah, so basically the questions kind of align with the work streams that Sharon shared earlier. So around membership, things like what are the most important aspects needed to ensure membership growth over the next 10 years? And then there's some things under there. How is it important to have goals on the following topics included in a 10-year international strategy? What is the most difficult challenge for clubs to focus on in terms of advocacy? How should Zonta International communicate with members going forward? So these questions align with those 4 work streams.
There's only like 4 or 5 questions per that for each work stream. We're limiting it so that it doesn't get too long. So we got about 5 minutes left. Did you say have anything else from the chats? Okay, okay. Any final comments before we break up for, well, I'll share another piece of just what life is like as a president. You'll hear a little bit more tomorrow, but normally when we would be meeting in person as a board, you'd be there for 3.5 to 4 days, you know, start at 8, go till 5 with lunch break, whatever. And sometimes evenings would be more social, but then we also had many evenings when you were working in your room. So with this board, we have not met in person yet, and November is the first opportunity we're trying to meet together. But with the members of our board being in various time zones around the world, the only time that we are not meeting in someone's time zone is 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. We have 4-hour board meetings, and I try to keep it at 3 hours and 50 minutes because it gets sitting there looking at the screen, and we get 1 break in between, about 10 minutes. So for Akiko in Japan, she starts at 4 a.m. Sala in Finland starts at 10 o'clock at night and goes to 2 a.m. So we are trying to pack the normal board meeting of 3 to 4 days into 4 days of less than 4 hours each day. So we are working with about a 40% time that would normally have been occurring. So that's why we are also doing a lot of working groups and other meetings. But it is challenging. It is challenging to have discussions and to do the brainstorming when you are in a board meeting. It's not like being in the room where you've got whiteboard here, 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 and you at break you say, okay, these are my priorities, and everybody's talking about it. You just don't have that same sort of ability to get your ideas out there and talk about it because of the time constraint at about 40%. So these are some of the challenges that the board is facing. It was not how I intended to start the 2nd century. So, but we are weathering, and the team is great, and we are pulling together and making the changes that we need to do and getting the business done. And I've heard about conferences and hybrids, just so that you get an idea. There are about half of our districts in the Zonta world are having their conferences totally electronic. And then there's a few that are hybrid, and then the rest are in person. But where we would have our international rep, go to the, they're also the board liaison would be your international rep. However, Australia border is closed. New Zealand border is closed. So Suella can't get out of New Zealand to go to her districts. The board liaison to New Zealand can't get in. The board liaison can't get into Australia. So one of the things that I've been doing for the last couple of months is rearranging who's going where and who can leave their country and who can attend. So we're flexible. And my goal is that every district that's in person will have have an international rep, but it may not be their board liaison. So we want to show that the board is there for our districts.
President Sharon,
Yes.
I have a question and then a comment.
Okay.
The question is there any desire to have a young professional on the international board for a different perspective? That's the question.
Yeah, we are looking at that. There is clearly discussion. All I'll say is we've been discussing, no answers at this point.
Okay, and the appreciative comment is, thank you, Sharon, and to the ZIF board for all your hard work. It has been a challenging year and you are doing a great job. Where are you? I lost it. We appreciate all you do for us.
Well, I appreciate all of you and I wouldn't be here without all of you. So is there another, hold on.
I just want to make a quick comment. I've been watching the comments coming up on screen from the Canadians. I miss you guys. Can't wait to see you again.
So as I said, I wouldn't be here without all of you. And so thank you for all that you do for Zonta. Now you're free until you're here. You can do it.
I am here. I'm going to make just a few announcements. Thank you, President Sharon. That was very good. Appreciate the open forum. Thank you. Okay, ladies, just a couple of announcements here. You may have already seen, but registration is still open. If you've not had a chance to pick up your packet, please do so. And it'll be open here for just a few more minutes and we're going to close at 5 to get ready for this evening. Along with that, you've probably seen that the Zonta Foundation table is out front. They have silent auction items that they have photos of that we want you to bid often. And along with that is to bid high and then bid again, high and often. Once you have made a donation, there is an opportunity for you also to guess the amount of money on that rose. I'll say the flower or the rose, so you can have another chance to win. For those, is the virtual still on? If they are, they also have an opportunity to win. They donate virtual. If you donate at least $100, you also have an opportunity to win in a drawing for a Visa card of $250. The Zonta Club here of Cincinnati has asked for a service project. They are, you're going to hear more about this tomorrow. It's called Sweet Cheeks, but they're asking for products from period products for women and for diapers for young babies. If not, you can go online to our inter-district meeting website and you can find a location there that you can go to that service project tab and you can make a donation there. Please visit our hospitality room. It is open and we would like you to go down there now if all possible. And we've got people down there. We'd love to greet you and see a few of our snacks and have something to sip on and meet with our other Zontians here in the room. Thank you. The room is the hospitality is Rue Leon. And we have these are for. And the last thing is, we will be back in here in this room, in the pavilion room, ballroom, and the Caprice behind us for Cincinnati favorites. And hope you enjoy the evening and refreshments. Cincinnati favorites and refreshments, 6 o'clock tonight. Dinner is between 6 and 7. Okay, thank you very much.